What's up guys, it's Meg and it's that time of the week again where we get to talk about the best show on television, AMC's The Walking Dead. Today we're discussing a review for season 6 episode 15 called East. What did you guys think of the episode last night? As you know, I had a bit of a meltdown. Probably a bit is an extreme understatement. I freaked the hell out. Now let me kind of explain to you why I was freaking out so much. One, Daryl's one of my favorite characters, but I feel like I would have freaked out no matter what. I mean, you saw me scream over Denise getting her eye shot, so I would have freaked out no matter what. But I was not able to rewatch that scene at all until just a little bit ago. So all I saw, you know when you're intensely watching the episode and you're getting very nervous and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen? And all I see or all I hear is the gunshot and I see the blood splatter. And I lost it, obviously, because I thought in that moment that he was shot in the back of the head, because my whole brain did not register that Daryl looked back and then it looked like he was shot in the shoulder. Rewatching that scene over and over again now, which I've done many times, it's much more obvious that he was shot in the shoulder, not shot in the head. You can see where Dwight was aiming, and yes, you see a lot of blood, but I think that was definitely for effect and shock value. So I'm much more confident in saying now that Daryl is not dead yet. And in the promotional trailer for the season finale, we do see at the beginning of that trailer kind of a point of view from Daryl. So we know that he's still alive at this point. We don't know if he's going to survive the season finale, but at least he's still alive at this point. So I feel much better, much more calm. A lot of my viewers have reassured me that this might actually ensure that Daryl does not get killed by Negan. So we're gonna save my predictions for our Dead Ahead video, which will be coming up next. I want to stick to the review of the episode. Now, I was expecting much more action from this episode, just based on the promotional trailers and just everything that has been building to this episode. I thought, oh my gosh, it's gonna be crazy. Someone's for sure gonna die, yada, yada, yada. But as we watched the episode, all of a sudden I realized, well, we only have like 3 minutes left of this show. So what? Nobody's died yet. Nobody's even really that hurt. Nothing really horrible has happened. So I knew, I just had this feeling that all of a sudden something bad was gonna happen. If you follow The Walking Dead's tweets at all on Twitter, you kind of, they tweeted out something super cryptic about it being Good Friday instead of Easter, you know, for The Walking Dead. So I knew something bad was gonna happen, and they saved it for the very end of the episode, which was crazy. But I really, really enjoyed this episode. The whole thing starts out, we get to actually go back in time just a little bit, and we see Carol kind of making preparations to leave Alexandria. I did not catch this in the actual first viewing of the episode, but after watching The Talking Dead, we realize that Carol was actually, when she's sewing that jacket there, she's actually sewing the weapons into the sleeves of her jacket, and it's such a big jacket so that she can hide the guns in there. And I thought that was so clever. She is so smart, so brilliant. But this also shows us that she was making preparations to have to kill someone, to have to fight to survive. And we know that she has made it very clear that she doesn't want to kill anymore. She doesn't want to be with this group of people because she is worried that she may have to kill for them. She may be forced to kill for them to protect them. And she doesn't want anyone to kill for her. So she kind of feels like if she can go off on her own, then all she has to worry about is herself. And if she does have to make that decision to kill, it's only going to be about her. It's not going to be about protecting someone she cares about. But I like that she's not gone so kind of Morgan crazy that she's unwilling to kill at all. We see that she still has definitely some reason there to her, as we see when she kills the saviors here that come upon her. But before we get into that portion of the episode, I want to talk about the song playing at the beginning of the show. It's called "It's All Over." I loved it. I loved it so much because even before we see Carol leave, we're seeing all of these happy moments. So we see Michonne and Rick in bed, and we kind of see this cute moment between Sasha and Abe when she brings him a cigar. And we're just kind of getting bits and pieces of more calm Alexandria. Yes, they're preparing for an attack, but just Rick feels very confident, and we're more at peace with the situation, where we know that whatever comes our way, we can take it. We'll be better for it. Rick kind of gives this little speech, talk to Michonne before he gets out of bed, that, I didn't even write it down, but we're not losing any of this again. He's just very confident. If they come, we'll take them out. Like, nothing bad's gonna happen. And this song, oh, and we also see Maggie and Glenn in the shower, which is really just a sweet moment. They love each other so much, and they're just enjoying this moment together, while this ominous song is singing in the background going, "It's all over, it's all over." And you just know it was such an amazing pick for a song for this episode, because it's just telling us that these quiet, peaceful moments are coming to an abrupt end very, very quickly, pretty much by the end of the episode. And I just loved that, because if you're not really paying attention, you don't quite catch it. But if you're actually listening to the words of the song while you're watching these happy moments, it's very like foreshadowing that all of this happiness is going to be over very quickly. Loved that. Moving back to Carol, and she has to kill the saviors. We don't see, and what I really liked is there's this kind of like, we don't really know what's happened to Carol. So we see from her point of view all the way up until that last savior is still alive, and she comes around the corner. He's got a knife, she's got a gun, but we don't hear anything. And it like cuts to commercial. So we don't know what's happened. But as Rick and Morgan go to find her, you discover that she has a wound that is a large enough size to be bleeding enough that they can track her for a while track the blood on the ground. Which makes me think, she still might not survive this, this last episode. She still has the potential to die being wounded like this. But I feel fairly confident that we're not going to see a Carol death in this last episode. Which kind of changes everything, because I thought in episode 15 we would most likely see Carol die. I really thought most of this episode was going to be based off of her and what she's doing and how she's leaving, and somehow she would, come to her end here. Or that Morgan would potentially come to his end trying to find her. But, that's not the case. And now I think it's really too late to see much of her. We may see a little bit, but I don't think we'll actually see her die in the season finale. I really highly doubt that they would kill off both Carol and whoever is going to get killed by Lucille in the same episode, because I feel like it would kind of downplay the Negan and Lucille scene if we also lost another main character. I could be totally wrong on that, but I feel pretty confident in saying we're not going to see Carol's death at least until season 7 here. I was very surprised that both Morgan and Rick went to go find Carol. I did not think Rick was going to go. I really didn't. And I love seeing them together here again, because there's just at such opposite sides of the spectrum here. And we see that throughout their interactions as they're looking for Carol, where Rick is ready to kill right away. We see the guy that's looking for his horse, and Rick is like, oh, he's not gonna stop, I'm gonna shoot him dead. We can't risk this. And Rick even says that same phrase again, I don't take chances anymore. And then Morgan, on the other hand, he knocks Rick out of the way, and he's like, you don't know. And he explains to him about the wolf, and how if that wolf hadn't had that change of heart, he slightly changed being with Denise and being with Morgan. He had a very slight change, enough where he knew he was going to die anyways, and so he chose in that moment of death to save Denise as well. And if he hadn't saved Denise, if Morgan hadn't saved the wolf, if the wolf hadn't saved Denise, Denise would not have been around to save Carl. And Morgan says his phrase is that everything has its return, which means pretty much everything works out the way it's supposed to. And if you choose to trust in, giving people the option of changing, then you may come to find that that things would work out better, would work out differently. basically, I don't even know if I'm explaining it right. I'm sure you guys understand it, so I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying in this, but it's very cool to kind of see Morgan's philosophy as well, and I actually appreciated it a lot more in this episode than I have in the past, because he's been so extreme in the past, and I think now, you know, he realizes that sometimes you do have to kill, but we can still give people the choice to change before we go to kill them, if that makes sense. By the end of the episode, we see Rick turn around to head back to Alexandria because that's where he's needed the most, and Morgan stays on to look for Carol. And we don't see Carol. We haven't seen Carol at all since that moment when she attacked the last savior. And it's very, it was interesting to me, that choice, to be quite honest with you, to no longer see her at all in the end of the episode. And I sort of wonder if that's how it's going to be. We'll see clues that she's still alive, but we won't actually see her in the next episode, and we may not see her again for a good while. So I'm going to jump over to the opposite group here. Once Daryl left Alexandria, he is on a mission to get revenge on Dwight, to take care of this, because Denise died for it, and he feels so much responsibility because he could have killed Dwight and he didn't, and now people have seriously suffered because of that choice that he made, and he needs this closure desperately. And so he leaves, and we see Michonne, Rosita, and Glenn all go after him. They want to stop him. They know that he's acting out of control, that this is not going to end well for him. At least that's what they feel like. And so they kind of go on this mission to find him and bring him back before he can do anything crazy. I want to jump back real fast because I forgot to say one thing about Morgan and Rick. I really liked that moment when Rick realizes that he didn't finish off all the saviors, and he says to Morgan, "We didn't end it." Basically meaning, you know, he thought that he had killed all of the saviors. He thought he had potentially killed Negan, and he thought that it was over, yet they were making preparations just in case, because they did know that there were a few saviors still out there, you know, because Dwight survived. But I think they were thinking that was it. Well, when Rick sees all of the dead saviors on the road with Carol, he knows that it's not over, and that there are probably a lot more than he thought there were. And he says this phrase, "We didn't end it," and Morgan says, "No, you started something." And I just love that because it's so true, and Rick was so confident in his skills and the fact that they could just end this and be done with it. And it was so easy to say, "Oh, we'll kill Negan for you. It'll be fine." And it's so much bigger than that. And Morgan realizes that when he says, "No, you started something." And I also wanted to just quickly mention that one of the saviors survives, and he goes after. He doesn't go back to Alexandria, or not to Alexandria. He doesn't go back to the savior's compound. He is going after Carol. I mean, he's going after her. He is shot, and he has the rosary in his hand, and he is following Carol's path. And I thought that was, and we even see him again in the promotional trailer for the season finale. We see him walking with the rosary in his hand still, and it's bloody. So he's definitely come into play. I'm worried that he is going to catch up with Carol, and there will be some sort of showdown there, although that kind of takes away from the fact that I think it's not going to end for Carol in this episode. But now that I think about it, maybe it will, because this savior is definitely going to come into play here. So Michonne, Rosita, and Glenn, they find Daryl. Daryl is not persuaded at all to go back. And actually, in this moment of him kind of ranting and like yelling about why he's not going to go back, because basically Michonne is like promising that she'll take care of this, but that's not what Daryl wants. He needs to take care of it. He feels the responsibility, and he's not going to feel better if someone else does it for him. He needs to be the one to do it, and that's how he feels. And as he's saying all of this, Rosita actually agrees with him and feels the same way. She was there when Denise died. She knows that Dwight needs to die. And so she kind of sides with Daryl and goes off with Daryl. Glenn turns around because he's battling with himself. He doesn't want to be here. He wants to bring Daryl back because he cares about him. He wants to help Daryl, but he's battling with that thought that Maggie's back at Alexandria. They're preparing for an attack. They need to be back there with their people, helping protect their people. Like, that's where they need to be right now. So you can see, and Michonne's kind of watching him and talking to him, but you can see Glenn kind of going around in circles in his head, trying to like quickly mentally figure out what the right thing to do is here. and they're talking so loud. And obviously this is the big scene. Dwight, we hear, oh my God, we hear this like Hunger Games type whistle through the forest, and then another one and another one, and slowly Dwight and all of his saviors kind of come out into view, and we find out that they've probably been listening to the whole thing, and they are much better at tracking than Daryl is. They're much better at hiding and being quiet, and they just seem more skilled in general, which is shocking to see Daryl one-upped so many times, really, quite frankly, because he's always been the tracker. He's been very aware of his surroundings. In the past, he's always known when he's being followed. If you remember when he realized Aaron was following him that one time, he's more aware of his surroundings. But the fact that he's so angry and wants revenge, I think it definitely threw him off his game here. But Dwight and his men have skills here. Twice now they've been able to sneak up on our group and take them completely unaware. So we have Glenn and Michonne captured, as you know. Daryl and Rosita eventually try and save them, but Daryl once again is one-upped one more time, and he's taken off guard and shot in the back, in the shoulder most likely. Oh, what an intense episode. And then, or actually before we see that scene, but that, I mean, that was a big scene. But we also see these scenes with Enid and Maggie, and I really love this. It just confirms again that she's going to be taking on the kind of the Sophia role here. It confirms to me that Maggie's not going anywhere. I'm sure that her baby is going to survive, but we're kind of shocked at this moment where she's having this extreme pain in her stomach, in her belly. Something is happening with the baby here, and there's no doctor. The only doctor is up at the hilltop. And we kind of ended with, oh my gosh, what's happening with Maggie? And she's on the ground in this intense pain, and we don't know, is she gonna have a miscarriage? What's happening? I feel pretty confident that the baby's gonna survive at this point, that Maggie's gonna survive, but it kind of leaves us wondering what kind of intense episode we're gonna have for the finale here, because there's so much going on still. So that's it for my review. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know. I loved this episode. At the same time, it's terrifying. I'm very scared for Daryl still. I'm still not convinced that he's going to survive the finale. I'm crossing my fingers. We'll talk about more about that and some of the fan theories and some of the things my viewers have said to me that make a lot of sense in the Dead Ahead video. All in all, this was a great episode leading up to the season finale here. All right, you guys, that's it for the review. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day, and make sure to leave your comments in my reaction video if you want me to respond to them in the weekly Walker Talk this week. Bye.